meets that thing called life. I hope you're having yourselves a wonderful morning this morning, and always grateful to have you here on the show. We have an awesome show set up for you inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. And what's poppin' on today's broadcast is that we will have a double dose of the Dolphin Dive. Say that 3 times fast. Double dose of the Dolphin Dive coming up here, and very, very excited to bring this to you where sports meets life. So great stuff coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of MonPazPopcorn.com. Like I said, what's poppin'? We have coming up first, we will have my conversation with Scott Cassidy, the head coach of the LeMoyne College baseball team, as they get set for their Super Regional this Friday and Saturday, and an opportunity to go to the College World Series. And that'll be followed by my Dolphin Dive with 2 of the student athletes on the LeMoyne College Dolphins baseball team, that being Dewey Roden and Brody Keneston will be joining me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in hour number 1. And then we'll finish off hour number 1 with Leo Rautins, TV analyst for TSN and NBA TV Canada, to give us an update on the Raptors, who he's covered for many, many years. We'll talk about coaching, the NBA draft, and everything going on in Toronto. And we'll also talk about Carmelo Anthony. As Leo went to Syracuse, so did Carmelo. So we'll remember Carmelo, and obviously he got to see him play in the NBA as well. So we'll get his thoughts on Carmelo Anthony's 19 seasons in the NBA. And we'll finish off the show in hour number 2 with Jason Lucas, my good buddy who's been on both sides of the sports world as a media member and a front office member. Him and I will be discussing his beloved UCF, as well as the Big 12, the AAC, and conference realignment in general. A lot of great stuff coming up right after this for the Dolphin Dive. Coming up next.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacted the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. Wow! It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315 487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Here to the newest edition of the Dolphin Dive, exclusive to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Of course, here on campus at LeMoyne College, we're at Dick Rockwell Field, and here with head coach of the baseball team, Scott Cassidy. Scott, how are you?
Great, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, happy to have you back here. And Scott did the right thing today. He gave me one of these hats. I did not bring mine, but they're very nice. I like it. It's one of the best things I've gotten from LeMoyne so far.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So, speaking of good things from LeMoyne, we are here this week, a couple days ahead of the continuation in the postseason to the Super Regional. So bring me through East Regional 2. You had a game against Queens College, and then 3 against Goldie Beacom, and just what your takeaways were.
Yeah, we came out of the gates. We were hitting. We were hitting the whole weekend. We came out of the gates against Queens, and we had a really good game. Some clutch hitting down the end, down the stretch, some good base running, and we were able to pull off a tight game to get into the winners bracket, which pairs us up against Goldie. And Goldie's, they're a good squad, and they had 35-plus wins. They beat us twice earlier in the year, start the season, actually. So we knew we were getting when we went in there. We played a really solid game. We got a great pitch game from Sam DeGeorge, who went complete game and really shut him down, which actually helped us even the next couple games with bullpen use and stuff. But so we ended up going to the championship game, and then Goldie came out of it, so we had to play him again. And one of the tough games that we were going to have. We had to battle that first game on Saturday. But unfortunately, we couldn't take the victory on, so we had to come in if necessary on Sunday. And we just played a good game. Both teams did really. It was a back and forth game with hitting and scoring early, and then we held on late at the end. We had some really good performances with the bat all weekend. Nevins and Roden and Brody, they kind of carried us offensively throughout the weekend, and our pitching stood up when it had to.
And you mentioned George and what he was able to do with his complete game. What have you seen out of him all season that he was, going to be big in that one?
He doesn't seem to let the moment get to him, so he just goes out there. He kind of attacks every game the same way. He's a strike thrower. He trusts a lot of his fastball. His fastball moves a ton. He's got a good off-speed pitch to kind of balance that off, but he's usually a heavy fastball guy. And he just challenges hitters, so we know he's going to go at him. We know he's going to have to make them earn their way out. And he did that, and he was throwing pretty hard the other day. Probably the hardest I've seen him throw in a while. And he was just getting it by him. He was challenging, getting it by him. And I just think that the way he's been pitching all year has been the same way. He's sitting on a 1.5 ERA, 7-1. It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
And you mentioned Goldie Beacom at the beginning of the season that you had seen them and had some adversity there. When you saw them later on in the season, 35-win team, what about them was the same? What had improved from that first go around?
I think what they do really well is they're never out of the game. They trust themselves. They're kind of similar to us in a way that they trust that they can come from behind. They don't get frazzled. They have some good arms that throw strikes. They have a really good hitting team. I think that top 5 in their lineup can really get on base, and some guys can make things happen. They have a guy with 43 stolen bases. So they're just an all-around balanced team, which makes them tough to beat. And I think we kind of compare to them pretty evenly, I would say, if you look at both of our teams. But I think we had a little bit more of the power numbers this year, and we got some clutch hitting down the stretch.
You talk about stolen bases. You tried to steal second. Now late in that game, they tried to do the exact same thing. Such a tight game. It was 4-3 for a while, and then we see you break up to get out to 6-3 in that final game against Goldie Beacom to move on to the Super Regional. But then they came back and made it 6-5. Like you said, they're never really out of a game, but neither is LeMoyne. Just bring me into that back and forth kind of seesaw, and that there was that 4-3 kind of hold for a long time. Then the bats woke up, and then so did theirs right after.
Yeah, it was a battle, and once we got ahead by 3, at that time, Eric had been pitching out of the pen, and he had just pitched fantastic. fantastic. Like, he gave us 3+ innings. You know, I probably maybe should have gone to the pen a little bit earlier because he was probably getting tired because I put a lot on him there.
Yeah.
But he was just pitching so well, and he got a couple guys on base and got 2 outs, and I think he's going to get him again. He made a good pitch. The kid made a good swing on it. You know, but at that time it was like, all right, we need 4 outs, so let's go to our guy out of the pen and shut the door, and if we're going to win this, we're going to win it on his arm. So we brought Jen in, and that was the big strikeout to end that 8th inning that really kind of gave us that confidence going to the 9th, and was going to 3 outs to win it.
This team had seen some adversity early on in the NE10, and then you also saw some positive moments, and then it broke out to really showing the prowess of this team at times, that you were just elevating your game throughout the entire season to 30+ wins as you go here into the Super Regional. What have you seen out of these guys? Is it what you expected? Is it what you, when we look at that iceberg and we see the tip out of the water and then so much under the surface, has that started to show more on the surface now?
Yeah, I think early on when we started the season, you know, we had a mix of young and veteran players that were playing together for the first time. And we were kind of trying to find our identity. We had some guys that we were moving around the positions, and you know, at one point we were 15 and 15, you know, and then the guys just kind of settled in. And I think that the series against Franklin Pierce right after we lost to Florida Southern showed these guys that they can beat anybody at any time. And to beat Pierce 4 times in a row, it's impressive because they were a really, really good team. So that weekend, I think, kind of started the springboard for us to just go on and know we can get it done against anybody. And then going into this regional, outside of the 2 losses that one day in the NE10, I would say we were probably the hottest team in the region. So hopefully we can just keep it rolling.
And when you get that opportunity to, I mean, you made it so far within the NE10, and you got to play host, you know, so to have that and then get picked as one of the at-large opportunities for it, what was it about the resume that you felt like, you know, the NCAA saw for Division II to give you that opportunity in the East Region?
Yeah, there's multiple different categories that they use for the regional, and I think the biggest one that we've had, even last year and this year, is our strength of schedule. We schedule a really tough schedule. We schedule some PSAC teams early in the year, and the PSAC's always really strong. So we were able to get some wins against some really tough teams early. And I'll be honest with you that our side of our division in the NE10 was very good this year. Like, we had a lot of good teams. I think 4 of the 6, maybe 4 of the 6 were over 30 wins. So that's going to do our strength of schedule again. So I think that's the big thing, but we were also able to win those, and we had a great winning record against 500 of our teams and played really well. So I think when you look at the full body of work, you know, they actually have one of them that's an RPI, and I think we were 2 or 3. And then D2 performance indicator, I think we were 2nd. So in the region. So I think there were so many different variables that came in that made it seem like, even though somebody may have 2 or 3 wins more than us, but the people that we played in our full body of work was what got us in.
And when you look at, you know, I mean, this is, of course, you need to be able to hit, you need to be able to pitch, you got to field right, but it's also, baseball has that chess game side to it. When you're playing that chess game and making some of those decisions, what can you say about the element of that this season specifically, of doing the things that you need to do, you know, talent-wise, but at the same time being smart about your chess game pieces?
Yeah, I think we've done a really good job with that. I mean, I'm fortunate enough where I have some really good coaches with me in the dugout, and I really make a lot of my decisions with a collaborative, you know, mindset where I like to talk with them about what their opinions are before we make moves, and I think it's good for us to be like that because I think they're knowledgeable, they're into the game. So I think as a whole, we've been making some really good decisions. And obviously you make a decision sometimes and it backfires, that's part of the sport. But, you know, overall, I think what our mindset is to put the guys in the best position we can to succeed. And I think we've done that for the most part this year, and they've just been taking off and putting it on their shoulders. I mean, they're the ones that do it. You know, they're the ones that play the game and get it done. We just try to make sure we're giving them the opportunity.
What has surprised you in a positive way this season so far?
I think it's how close they've become. I've been here for 13 years now. We've had a lot of different teams, and there is a level of closeness, and I think the last 4 or 5 years, the culture has just been getting better and better and better, and our senior leadership this year especially took in the young kids and made them feel comfortable right away, and they're so close this year that that's the reason I think when something goes wrong on the field, they don't panic. They know that the next guy can get it done. If they make an error, somebody else will get it done. If you don't pitch well, somebody else will, or a hitter will pick you up. I think it's pretty remarkable to see that. I've been on a lot of teams in my life, even playing, and you've always had those. You always kind of have a couple silos of kids that do their own thing, and I don't really think we have it this year, which is it's pretty impressive to me.
So as you step forward into this, we look at SNU. You're in the NE10, but you haven't faced them this season. What have you seen from Southern New Hampshire going into this matchup that you have over the weekend?
That they're really good. Yeah. They always are. They're super well coached. Scotty does a great job over there coaching them up, and he's got such talented players. They got really good starting pitching. They run the bases well. They've got guys with power. I mean, they've been the best team in the region really for 5-6 years in a row with them and Pierce, and so it's going to definitely be a battle. We have to click on all fronts to be able to take them down. And I think we're doing that right now, so it'll be exciting. I think at the end of the day, and I know obviously I'm biased, but I think this super region is going to be won by one of the two best teams in the region.
Yeah, and you look at, you mentioned Analyst, Roden, and Keneston and what they've been able to do with their bats, especially recently. Just what you could say about the power that you bring into this matchup.
Yeah, we've been swinging it really well. We've been hitting a lot of long balls. I think we got 60+ home runs on the year, and they're not just home runs; they're clutch home runs. We've been getting some unreal, game performances, especially as of late. Brody, a freshman, hit 3 home runs in a game the other day, followed up the next day with another home run. What can you say about the at-bats that Dewey and Evans have been giving us this whole weekend? It feels like sometimes I wonder why the other team's pitching too long in certain situations because they've been coming up so clutch. So, yeah, we've been fortunate enough to get a lot of the long ball that has been game changing. You don't like to rely on that. You don't like to have a team that relies on the long ball. You want to be able to do the little things and play small ball when you need to, which I think we can, which we did at the end of the game with the push bunt to score the final run of the game the other day. So kind of balance it off, but it's nice to know that you got some guys that are going to come in the lineup that's got some pop that can be game changers.
You know that in the background, we know that LeMoyne's going to Division I is July 1st, 2023. This is the last time with the NE10. It's the last time in Division II. Baseball knows all about it because baseball, when it's lacrosse, up until 2007, had that in the MAC. So is that fact that this is one more run in D2, this is one more time to represent the NE10, does that mean anything to you?
It does to me, because I think it's a special run that we're making, and it's the farthest we've gotten in Division II to this point. We were a game away from the World Series in 2012 when we first made the transition down. So it's come full circle where we're a couple games away from it again. So it's a special thing for me because it's a great way to go out of Division II, showing what kind of talent we have, and I think it also can, show the next level that we're a talented team about to take the next step, and we should be a team that should be competitive, hopefully, right out of the gate.
You said that obviously the alumni are excited because that's something that baseball has been used to. Have you gotten an influx of kind of the support that you typically get in the postseason, and now has there been an influx of coach, let's make sure that we leave an exclamation point?
I've gotten a lot of communication from a lot of different alum, all positive, with the support of this year, and just like you said, hey, finish with a bang, get back to Division I where we've been. So it's been super fun to see the people coming out that are both excited for what we're doing now and what we can do and what our future holds. So it's it's the Division I news came out, and that was news. That's the big news, and we were right in the middle of the playoff push. So I sent a correspondence out to the alum about the news, and I also put on there let's jump on this horse now. Like we're rolling here. Let's pay attention to what we're doing right now with these kids. So it's been a fun time.
Final note: you're the only team in LeMoyne still in the postseason. Is that a place of appreciation, and kind of do you feel the weight of that at all as you are the team that's continuing on here in the postseason in the spring? Number one, and number two, what do you think keeps the guys hungry after everything you've already accomplished?
Number one, it's weird being the only team because our lacrosse teams are always playing, and we expect them to be playing all the time because they're just so good. So it's a little strange not seeing those guys kicking around.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting. I think the fact that we're still playing and it's different now. Like nobody's here on campus. It's almost like we're the only ones here. It's kind of like a pride thing. Like, no, this is it. We're the last remaining team playing this year. Let's hope we can go finish this off and continue. So it's been an exciting time. They seem to be just happy. School's out, so they don't have to go to class. And it's almost like a miniature pro ball feeling that they might get now, where it's wake up and it's baseball. It's not go to class, do some studying, get my exam ready. It's baseball. It's we're gonna play. We're gonna have to practice. They got lift later. They got to get ready. So it's a pretty exciting thing.
And you think they're still hungry because of the pride side of it? Is what you're saying?
I think they're hungry just because they're baseball players and they're gritty and they just want to win. And that's what this is what we play all year for. To get to this point. Like when we lost the first game to Goldie in the championship Saturday, we said to them on the bus, if you would have told us that we were going to be playing for the regional title for one game, winner take all, 3 months ago, we all would raise our hands and say, heck yeah, let's go do this. And we were in that situation. So this is the culmination of what we play for. I mean, the best you can get is to get to the World Series and hopefully compete for the title. We're one series away from getting there.
It's a beautiful thing, and this weekend is going to mean a lot, and I'm hoping that we can talk about LeMoyne in the World Series. It seems very poetic with the way the season has gone thus far, this being the Dolphin Dive on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, featuring LeMoyne baseball and head coach Scott Cassidy. As always, sir, appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Hello everyone and welcome back here to a Dolphin Dive ×2 here exclusively in our multimedia marketing partnership with LeMoyne College and of course Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you. You just heard from the head coach of the baseball team, Scott Cassidy. Now I'm here with the big bats of the baseball team, Brody Keneston, and also very happy to have here Dewey Roden. So gentlemen, how are you? Thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks for having me. Thank
Absolutely. So first and foremost, congratulations on making it to the Super Regional.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Dewey, I'm going to start with you. What is it about the offense that, not that you guys didn't have it during the season, but the bats have been big these last few games?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is 1 through 9, we've been able to pick each other up, whether one guy has a good day or not. I mean, you're allowed to trust the guy behind you because they'll have your back, and we just play together really well. And this weekend, especially in the championship game, we did the little things right, and it came together for us to get a win.
And for you, Brody, I mean, being new to the team, just what you could say about kind of finding your role quickly and being able to come up big, especially offensively as of late, being one of the young guys on the team.
Pretty much what he said, like just the trust and the precedent set by the older guys that just allowed me to find my place, and I couldn't do anything with that.
I was talking with Coach, and he said that in 13 years he's seen a lot of different teams and a lot of different kind of combinations, but it seems that the newcomers on the team as well as the veterans have found a way to mesh really well together. What would you say to that, Brody? Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I feel like we have a good balance throughout, and we all just get along and work and be cohesive.
Dewey, for you, being one of the guys out here that we've come to now, what is it about guys like Brody that this team was just able to connect young and old and really come together and not have kind of different cliques in different places, but to just have a cohesive unit?
Yeah, I think the older guys, we really just try and get everyone involved together. We definitely have a great connection this year with everybody. We can have fun together, and we all really get along. We got a smaller team this year, but I think that that's kind of allowed us to get closer with each other, bond more, and it's really showed. I mean, we're always there for each other and been able to pick each other up when one of us is down.
You talk about picking each other up. You beat Queens in the East Regional #2. Then you have Goldie Beacom. You get a victory, and then you have a loss, so you have to play Goldie Beacom again. How do you pick each other up in that situation and not let a loss beat you twice? Because you were riding hot in the East Regional, and then you had some adversity. So, Dewey, I'll start with you. What was the message? What was kind of the conversation amongst all of you on the team of what you needed to do to make sure that you finished the East Regional and were able to move on?
I think the one nice thing with the regional compared to the NE10 tournament is we kind of had a night to sleep on it and regroup together. But the biggest thing is in that game when we lost to Goldie, we were responding and we were fighting. We didn't give up, and we fell a little bit short. And we knew that we just needed to keep responding. Every time we got knocked down in that last game, we just needed to respond every time and just hang in there. And we knew that if we did that, keep getting deeper into their pen, that it would work out for us. And I think that that's what we saw. I mean, we got the 3-run support that we needed to. We got the sacrifice bunt, and Benji scored on the pass ball. I mean, stuff like that just really helped us out and gave us the insurance we needed before the 9th inning.
Brody, in your opinion, how did you all stay positive after winning 2 and then having that loss to Goldie?
Kind of just, again, like the precedent set by the older guys. Like, one loss won't hurt us, and we're able to do the little things right to help us make that win.
Why'd you come to LeMoyne?
Great people, great atmosphere, great school.
Dewey, for you, what was it that sold it for you?
Well, I mean, it was like in the backyard for me here, and I was looking for a place closer to home, and it worked out where I ended up coming here to LeMoyne. It's been a blessing in disguise, I guess.
For you guys, obviously the news of Division I comes out while you're in a postseason push. So, do you feel any of that on your shoulders, any of it in the background of saying, hey, we're the last D2 school at LeMoyne, we're the last, NE10 time that we're going to be in this conference? So do you feel an extra sense of pride, an extra sense of let's make this really special? And I'll start with you, Dewey.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when it came about, it was like right in the middle of the NE10 tournament, and there was a lot of things going on. But the biggest thing is like leaving it all on the field. Like, you got nothing to lose. This is our last time some guys playing for something, because we won't be able to play in the NCAAs or the NEC tournament next year. So it's like, you know what, like, we're all going out together with guys, and usually it's like, okay, there's one group of seniors and it's like 4 or 5 guys that are done after this year. But now it's like, you know what, this is the last time you're going to be able to play for a NCAA regional or a NE10 championship, stuff like that. So it's cool to be able to, just leave it all out on the line and just give everything we got.
What about you, Brody? I mean, thinking about the fact this is the last time representing NE10 and the last time as a D2 school, do you feel that there's even more riding on making sure that LeMoyne continues?
I think there could be, but we just have to take it one thing at a time. We have to focus on what's right here in front of us right now and take care of business.
Do you feel any pressure, or do you feel like you guys have been able to kind of be more loose and calm in this moment?
I think it's been a little bit of both. Like, you feel the pressure, but we're just loose and having fun, and you can feel it in the dugout. It's great to be around.
What is it about this team that at one point in the season you're 15-15, and now you got 30-plus wins at the time we're talking, I think 34 and 20 losses? What clicked and started to turn the team in the right direction, Brody? I'll start with you.
It's not to say that we didn't get along, but we just really became like family almost, and that just helped us. We had each other's backs, and I think that really put us to the next level.
Dewey, can you find a moment or two where you felt like, hey, I think we're finally starting to figure this out?
Yeah, I think that after we swept Franklin Pierce in the regular season, it was okay, we know that we're a legit team, and we need some respect, and we know the level we can play at. And then the next weekend we played against Southern Connecticut, and we kind of got humbled. We got swept, and it's okay, can't change anything now. All we got to do is just put together what we can and come together and play as a team. And I think that we just started to play better, and we just were constantly picking each other up. There's some games where the hitters aren't showing up, but Sam DeGeorge, the pitchers, they really show out for us. And there's some games where it's a dogfight, and the hitters just come together. I mean, Franklin Pierce, in the game before the championship for NE10, we were down a couple runs in the first inning, and then we just scored a bunch of runs and picked each other up. I think that's the biggest thing, is just continuing to respond and play together as a team.
I talked with Coach about how obviously you have to have talent, right? You got to be able to pitch, you got to be able to hit, you got to be able to field. But there's the chess game to it all too, and kind of trying to figure out the other team and really break down, know where to kind of direct your hits, different things that you could do to make those chess moves. How would you describe it, Dewey? Like when you look at that side of it, that there's talent, but then there's also the mental chess game of baseball.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where the leaders and stuff on the team have really helped out with the younger guys and some of the other guys who haven't played as much in the past. Is we're just trying to stay positive, just trying to make sure the mental side of the things are taken care of, because obviously there's the physical and the mental side, so we're just trying to take care of that stuff and really just hone in on the things that we need to take care of and emphasize those things that are going to help us out.
Brody, when you look at that, you hear Dewey talk about, it's on the vets to kind of help you through that mental side and that chess side. Who has taken you under their wing? Is there a player or two, a teammate or two that you really feel like has worked extra time with you?
Really just like pretty much all the older guys. Like I'm pretty close with all of them. All the freshmen are, everybody's close. So we're just all able to connect and learn from each other and learn from our mistakes, and that's kind of it.
You're playing baseball at a time where there's no more classes. So you get to just play baseball, just lift, just work out, just be ready. What's that like for you, Brody?
It's kind of crazy. The dorms are they're like a ghost town. It's just us, and we're just, I don't know, it's cool. It's definitely cool.
Dewey, for you, what's it like to have, I mean, it's baseball, and that's it? What's that experience like?
I mean, it's almost like summer ball, but I think that like spring balls, it means a lot more for guys than summer ball, and it's like you're still out there with the guys, so you spend a lot of time with these guys. I mean, you're with them in the fall every day, and then in the winter when we're in 41, we're all spending time together. We just want to get out there and play, and now it's like, okay, like we're seeing our success and all the time we put in, and we're still out here, like we're still playing, and we just get to focus in on baseball and play the game that we all love.
A few more pieces here in Dolphin Dive as we're here with Dewey Roden and Brody Keneston, myself, Dan Tortora, here inside of this very special LeMoyne baseball spotlight. Brody, for you, what keeps you calm?
Just my preparation. I've always been taught preparation prevents poor performance, so trusting that what I've done before is going to keep me on the track that I'm going on.
What about you, Dewey?
I think the biggest thing is just like trying to focus in on your breathing when you're getting up to the plate, and just trying to stay relaxed, keeping your mind focused in on what you need to. And the other side of it with, like you said, with preparation, just like trusting your preparation and knowing that you put in the time and you deserve to be out there. Like you've earned the right to be in the box in these situations. And in one of the games I said to the guys, like, it's the same box you've been stepping in since you were 12 years old. Like, nothing's changed. You're still playing on dirt and grass, and they're still throwing a round baseball, and you're still swinging with a baseball bat. Like, don't make it any bigger than it is, and don't put any more pressure on yourself than you should.
Why do you love baseball?
I guess baseball has always been like an out for me. Like, if there's ever been any like struggles with life or hard times, it's just baseball's been able to make things easier, and baseball just, I don't know, it's consumed me to the point where it's like I love being out there, I love being around the guys, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
What about you, Brody? Why are you so passionate about the sport?
It's tough to describe. It's like love. It's love, and it's something I can always come back to. And the atmosphere that's why I love it.
Well, I can say this to anybody watching or listening: if they didn't love baseball before, you guys are like, I can feel that. I can feel that love. I can feel that calmness. That, here we are going to the Super Regional, and you guys are smiling. You're having a good time. And you're the last team this season to represent LeMoyne. What does that feel like to know that in the spring it's LeMoyne baseball or bust right now, Brody?
I don't know. It's just taking it one pitch, one game, one practice at a time, and focusing on what we can control right now.
What about you, Dewey?
I mean, it's definitely an awesome feeling. I mean, being at this spot, I mean, last year we made it to the regionals and we fell a little short, but now being able to bounce back and win the regional and know that we'll have a piece of history in the club or in the locker room always. But it's like at this point, you got nothing to lose. Like just go out there, have fun, and just put it all out on the line.
A final note here, and Dewey, I'll start with you. What do you want to say? Like, let's say you went into the future, and you're in the Super Regional because we're a few days away from it. What do you want to say to yourself in that game? If you could go there right now, like the Flash, run to that moment, what would you say?
Just enjoy it. Just soak it all up. Make the most out of the opportunities you're given. I mean, being able to play with these guys around me, these are unforgettable things that I'll always keep with me, and just soak it all up. Enjoy it, and you never know when the day you'll have to hang up your cleats are. So just make the most of it and leave it all out on the line.
I appreciate that. And Brody, you get the final word. What is it about being a Dolphin that gives you so much pride?
The atmosphere. It's like within our sport there's connection, but within the whole college there's connection. I was talking to professors and they know when our games are, and they're like, when can we come support you guys? So it's from the top down, and that's what I feel really stands out.
Brody Keneston, Dewey Roden, myself, Dan Tortora. You guys made me want to go out and play with it. So, but it's going to be awesome. It's at SNU, Southern New Hampshire, this weekend, an opportunity to get to the College World Series. And I can't thank you guys enough for spending a couple minutes here on the Dolphin Dive. Thanks, Brody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Definitely make sure you go out and support them. If you can make it out to New Hampshire, make sure you go to the games this weekend. And if you can't, then make sure you're watching on LeMoyneDolphins.com. And as always, fins up, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge, and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York. And
Recording
it's
in
our
progress.
honor to serve
Recording
you.
stopped.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You just had the opportunity here inside a Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora to hear from the fantastic representation of LeMoyne Dolphins baseball. The team is moving on from East Regional 2, which they won, and they'll be heading on to the Super Regional, which is coming up this Friday and Saturday. And as the head coach, Scott Cassidy, said, they're one series away from going to the College World Series. So can't ask for anything better than that. Really special, really amazing, and very excited for this LeMoyne Dolphins baseball team. So a lot of good stuff coming up here with the baseball team, and excited to see what they could do as all eyes are on baseball. They're the final team still going here in the postseason for LeMoyne College this season, and they have the opportunity to, like I said, and as Scott Cassidy said, be one series away from the College World Series, which I hope we get to see them in this season here. So looking at what they have coming up this Friday, May 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, they'll be in Hooksett, New Hampshire at Southern New Hampshire University. Now, Southern New Hampshire University, they go up against them inside of the NE10. However, this season they didn't face each other, so they haven't had a series despite being in the same conference. And so this is the first time they'll play Sanu this season. And so they have them Friday, May 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time and Saturday, May 27th at noon Eastern Time, both on site on campus at SNU. So a lot of great stuff coming up, and very excited to see what's going to happen this weekend, and high hopes for the baseball team, and just excited to see where they're going to go from here. So a lot of great stuff coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We appreciate LeMoyne Baseball for joining us for both of those specials for the Dolphin Dive, a double dose of the Dolphin Dive, and really can't thank them enough for being a part of the broadcast and for everything we get to do with student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni, as well as the athletics director, Bob Beretta, and president, Dr. Linda Lemura. So great things coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we've already had the opportunity to share a lot of those with you, so we appreciate that. And speaking of great things coming up here on the show, one of my absolute favorite things to do is when I have the opportunity to bring one of my special guests here that is no stranger to the broadcast onto the show, and that is Leo Rautins. And Leo Rautins has covered the Toronto Raptors for a very long time, a team that is near and dear to my heart that I appreciate so very much. And the Toronto Raptors, with the opportunity to share this with Leo Rautins and to be able to talk with him about what's going on with the Raptors. There's been a lot of different things that have happened here, and obviously the Raptors are looking for new leadership and maybe potentially looking at their identity as they step forward here. So a lot of great stuff coming up with the Raptors, and hopefully we could see some things happening in the not too distant future for them as we step forward. So always a good time to have Leo on the show, and we appreciate him here. Leo, I'm going to bring you in here on audio, and then we'll get your video set. How you doing?
I'm great, Dan. How are you?
Doing very well. And first and foremost, if you can just share with us kind of what your takeaways have been as far as this coaching search and trying to find the right guy and the right fit.
Well, as far as the Toronto Raptors go, I mean, they're not going to be in any rush to find the coach they're looking for. I think there's they kind of hit a little bit of a crossroads with Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse was very much about trying to win. He tasted a championship. He wanted to win. He felt that, he really wasn't as much on the development side as Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster wanted to be. And if you look through the history of the Toronto Raptors, at least with Masai Ujiri, development has been a big part of what they did. Even when they won a championship, you had players like Fred VanVleet, undrafted, Norm Powell, second-round pick, Pascal Siakam, late first-round pick, players like that being key contributors to a championship team. Whereas, recently, Nick Nurse played his key players in heavy minutes.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Yeah.
In heavy minutes. Not really necessarily focusing in on development. So I think Masai Ujiri obviously wants to find somebody that's going to work on both sides of the ball, making sure that, you're on the same page. You're trying to, deal with that development component as much as you are trying to win. And I think part of that is the Raptors feel that, if you look at the NBA today, I wouldn't say there's any great teams. There's a lot of good teams. And so the Raptors feel that they're close.
Yeah.
So that if you can get the development going and you can find a piece or two here and there, they feel they're right in the mix. So they want to make sure they do this right.
And Leo, as you said that they're not in any rush to do this. Some fans want that immediate action, right? They want to know that you have a plan in place. You had an idea 3, 4, 5 months ago. The society we live in doesn't like to take its time. So when you said, the Raptors are going to be, very purposeful with their time and go through this process, how have you seen the fan base react to the fact that this isn't like an immediate, this is our guy, or we're down to 2 people and that's it?
I think the fan base here pretty much understands how this organization works. There's no knee-jerk reaction with Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, none at all. They don't share very much of what they're trying to do, and they do nothing that doesn't fit into their long-term vision. Now, we may not know that long-term vision. Again, they don't share a lot of they keep things close to the vest, which, it's the way it should be. But nothing they do doesn't fit into their long-term picture. So they're going to make sure that they're going to find somebody that can go along with the big plan that they see that they're comfortable with, and go from there. So I think the fan base understands that, and the fan base is pretty comfortable with who this management is, and this management has been successful. But Dan, we do live in a crazy world right now, and if you think about it, you look at this Miami, Boston series.
Yeah.
Joe Mazzulla. I mean, here's a coach that they beat Philadelphia, and the only reason they beat Philadelphia is because Jason Tatum comes through with 2 monster games. One at the end of his second last game and a huge game in the last game. To beat the Sixers. And the Sixers stars, Harden and Embiid, don't perform. That's why they won. But all of a sudden, within a week, he can't coach and he's lost his team because they go down 3-0 to the Miami Heat. It's insane. But that's the world we're living in. Everybody wants to judge everybody day to day, and have something to talk about more than anything else. If you're not talking about somebody getting fired, what are you talking about? It gets boring. So, that's the world we live in. And it's unfortunate because it's illogical and it doesn't make sense. But people are buying into it.
Yeah, and going off of that point, speaking here with Leo Rautins of TSN and NBA TV Canada in his coverage of the Raptors as a TV analyst and obviously a Syracuse alum. We'll talk about Carmelo in just a little bit here. But Leo, you said it, with what's going on. 1 minute, here's a coach who needs to get fired. The next minute, oh, well, his team's still alive. In the case of Monty Williams and the Phoenix Suns, I mean, you look at what's happened in Phoenix, how Phoenix is relevant, what they've done, the type of talent that they have, and he loses his job. Budenholzer with the Milwaukee Bucks wins a championship. He has them as the number 1 seed in the East, and he doesn't have that job anymore. So to go off of your point, we have already seen a knee-jerk reaction of 2 prominent teams in the NBA firing their head coach, who you would imagine would have that job and would have done enough, especially with Budenholzer.
It's hey, you look at the one area of stability in this league, it's Miami.
Yeah.
And Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah.
Now, was Eric Spoelstra making every right decision all along the way to get to this point? No. He learned the job. He's made mistakes along the way, as we all do. But Pat Riley has instilled the confidence in him and, says, hey, we're going to work together. We're going to get through this. We understand you're a pro. You're very good at what you do. You're going to continually work at your craft. That's all I can ask for. And as a result, they have continuity. They have that culture everybody talks about. You can't develop a culture when you're changing coaches left and right.
Yeah.
And some of these places, it's just okay. I'm going to say it. You look at Philadelphia. Do you think you're going to win a championship with Embiid and Harden? Do you really think so? Yeah. It's not Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
You have two players that underperform when it matters most. Okay, regular season, yeah, whatever, they play. In the playoffs, they historically underperform, and that's when your great players, your best players, have to step up. It's simple as that. It's a players' league. You can be the best coach in the world when your players don't come to play. Okay, you're not going to win, right? You know, like I said, the example I gave you: if Tatum doesn't get hot at the end of one game where he couldn't make a shot and come back and score 50 the next game. The Celtics don't beat the Sixers, right? It doesn't happen. So, your best players have to perform, and as I said, by the same token, the best players of the Sixers underperformed. Yeah. And it's not Doc Rivers, okay? It's not Doc Rivers, and it's not Joe Mazzulla, okay? These are good coaches that put these teams in a position to be successful, but ultimately the players have to be the ones that get it done. I think Tatum said it the other night. He goes, Mazzulla didn't miss any shots. I did.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Yeah.
And so there's only one team in the league right now that's demonstrated that consistency with Spoelstra. I think another one is the Denver Nuggets. Mike Malone, obviously with his Syracuse ties, his dad was an assistant at Syracuse, and Mike Malone was a ball boy when I played at Syracuse, and also was an assistant coach for me for Canada. Mike Malone's been in a great situation. He was in a situation in Sacramento where they basically dumped him after half a season, and he was doing well. But Sacramento has no clue as to what they're doing at the time, and they made a move. And Denver was wise enough to find him, and he's had a long tenure by NBA standards.
Yeah.
And there's been development along the way. They've had players like Jamal Murray. Jokic was a second-round pick. And they developed players. You look at Aaron Gordon. To me, Aaron Gordon was close to being a bust. Here's a guy that was a high pick, an unbelievable talent, but he just seemed like he didn't understand how to play the game. He frustrated coaches that he was playing for.
Yeah.
Mike Malone has turned him into a key player on a potential championship team. That's coaching. That's working with your players. That's developing. That's having patience. Caldwell Pope, he's been on a few teams in this league, and he's made some shots, but he hasn't played at the level of consistency he's playing for the Denver Nuggets. He's there night in and night out. He's making plays, and he's doing a lot more just shooting the basketball because he's been put in that position and been developed. And that's what it's all about. And more teams need to understand that's the best way to do it, because it's very difficult to just buy superstars. And if you want to look at that, look at the Phoenix Suns. I mean, you get rid of Monty Williams. He didn't make all those changes in season.
Yeah.
He didn't all of a sudden bring in Kevin Durant. And I said it as soon as that trade was made. Okay, what are the chances of Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker all being able to be healthy throughout the course of this run? They historically speaking, you're gonna realize it's probably not going to happen, and it didn't happen. So you're going to blame the coach? Come on. But that's, again, as we said, that's the world we're living in.
Yeah, and you bring up great points with things, and I love what Jason Tatum said. He's coach isn't the one that missed the shots. I did, but as you look at this, and I love that you brought up the Sixers, because Embiid and Harden, are you going to win a championship with them? No,
never.
And were they going to win a championship beforehand with what they had with Ben Simmons? No. So there's a lot to be said about, and Malone doesn't get the credit that he deserves, and I agree with you on that. Seeing what he's done with the Denver Nuggets, I mean, this is a team that they take care of home court. They were the number one team coming in. People talking about the Lakers, talking about everybody else, talking about Sacramento, talking about can Golden State get one more run, and here's Denver just taking care of business. And they're more than the Joker. They're more than simply one guy. And I just feel like watching Denver has been exciting. The other thing about it, Leo, is now there's only 5 franchises left in the NBA that have never advanced to the NBA Finals. You know, the Pelicans haven't done it. The Hornets haven't done it. I didn't believe this when I saw it, but the Clippers haven't done it. And the Timberwolves have also not advanced forward into this championship game, in the Grizzlies. So when you look at that and you look at the fact that Denver has made history, they've never swept in the Western Conference because they've never won the Western Conference. What does today's NBA look like? Because we talk, you know, we hear what they say about, you know, what does the media want to see? What would sell tickets? What's good for TV? But Denver's on one side. It looks like, unless Boston pulls a rabbit out of its hat, it's going to be Miami on the other side. People say, well, we want to see Boston and LA. And I brought up on yesterday's show the whole notion, and you and I have talked about this, about the Raptors, that it's like, oh, people didn't want to see that championship in 2019. There's not a lot of fans. There's not a lot of support. And I was like, who's telling you that information as far as attendance, I mean, what other arena has people inside of the arena and then another arena outside the arena called Jurassic Park? So, you know, there's the difference between like the TV ratings and what's happening. What can you say about where we're at right now? Because Miami and Denver, I can't stand hearing this notion, but people say it's not good for TV, and I don't like that.
Well, again, that's TV people. It's bean counters talking about big markets playing against each other. Simple as that. They're not talking about the quality of basketball. They're not talking about what's good for the game. They're simply talking about ratings.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that happened when the Toronto Raptors won the championship, that was at a time where teams are loading up on superstars, right? You got to get your 3 guys coming together, right? Let's all band together. Forget about being good where you are and trying to get better. Let's all switch teams and get together. Well, the Raptors, when they won a championship, they made a deal. They traded an all-star for an all-star, DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, a few other pieces involved in that deal. But everybody around the league, and I remember going to NBA meetings subsequent to the championship, prior to the next season, and teams around the league, franchises around the league, were genuinely happy for the Toronto Raptors for one reason. It gave them a vision. You don't need to go out and try to put all these superstars together. You got to build from within, all right? And if you can add that one player, all right, you can add that one guy to tweak your team, maybe 2 depending, but it doesn't have to be, you know, 3 big superstars. You can win a championship. And, you know, I think a lot of people got excited about that. And when you look at the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat, what have they done? They've built from within. They've developed players. They've tweaked and added, put players in a position to succeed. They have consistency. They have continuity. And you know what? They're fun to watch. I love watching the Denver Nuggets play. They get up and down the floor. That ball moves. They make the extra pass every time down the floor. Hey, you got a big man in Jokic that can shoot the 3, but he scores inside. He scores inside all the time. He's taking people inside. He plays off everybody. You can play off him. But as opposed to, hey, well, I want a big guy standing outside shooting threes. I don't. Why do I want to watch a 7-footer stand outside shooting threes? Yeah. I want a 7-footer that's a 7-footer. If you can stand outside and knock down a few, that's great. If you could be a 7-footer and play inside and destroy people there, that's even better, right? It's the best of both worlds, and that's what you get with Jokic. You know, Jamal Murray is an unbelievable talent. All right, I've known him since he was a high school kid up here in Ontario. You know, but look at the way he plays. The way those guys play off each other, the way that ball moves. And then defensively, Mike Malone, if you know one thing about Mike Malone, they're locked in defensively. This is a team that plays really good defense. And they understand that's what you're going to hang your hat on. And then you look at the Miami Heat, same thing. They hang their hat on their defense. And everybody's talking about, look at how many undrafted players on this team are making major contributions. Now, that storyline is getting a little old. They're not all undrafted players that just showed up today.
Yeah.
Okay, they're undrafted players that have been involved in their program. So they're now seasoned NBA players. Yet at the same time, that's scouting, that's development. That's how they came to be. And that's what it's all about. And so like people can say, oh, Miami, Denver. I love watching Miami Denver. I love watching Jimmy Butler. I love watching the way this team will get after you. And again, we were talking about Denver and the things they do. So if you don't enjoy watching those two teams and you don't understand what they're doing, then you don't know basketball. And if you're just worried about big markets, well, guess what? I'd rather watch those two teams than watch some big markets go up and jack up threes and play lousy basketball.
Yeah, and I genuinely agree with that. LeBron James, 38 years old. Before we swing back to the Raptors here, speaking here with Leo Rautins, I know that he can score. This is how I view LeBron James. I know he can score. I know that he can carry a team at times. I also know that if someone touches him with a pinky, he flies across the room as if a ghost from Ghostbusters has lifted him up and thrown him across the arena. I don't like flopping. I don't like these special rules for LeBron. And when he's, you brought up Aaron Gordon, when he's going back and forth with Aaron Gordon, I don't think there was any call about what he was doing and kind of leaning into him, pushing him, and all those pieces to it. I find it hard to, if I was on a team, I wouldn't want to play with LeBron, but I would love to get your thoughts on it because we know he's a talent. I just don't like the way he goes about the game.
Well, there's a lot of different levels to what you're saying right there. I think he is a tremendous talent. He's at a stage right now where, the fact that he's doing what he's doing physically is mind-boggling. It really is. Yeah. But you can see, just like the other night, he had an unbelievable scoring game in the first half, but he just ran out of gas down the stretch, not being a factor scoring at all in the fourth quarter. I think he only had one bucket. But the key is once you're at that point of your career, you really need the pieces around you. This is the funny part. Everybody's praising Rob Pelinka at the Lakers. Oh, look at what he did. Look what he did. Like he brought all these. Yeah, that's after how many years of crap, right? You got a bad team after bad team. All of a sudden you do things and everybody's just putting them up on a pedestal. Come on. It did, you added some right pieces, but okay, here's the reality of it. If you want LeBron to be a major factor for your team, you got to have pieces. He's now has to become that second, third guy.
Yeah.
And I think he has the mentality to do that. The ball's going to have to come out of his hands a little bit more. He's got to be more of a power forward, which we've seen him play because physically he's got the strength to do that. And if you do that, he can still play this game. Based on what I see with his body, a few more years at a high level, just not being the superstar of the team. And like you said, there will be those games where he can drop 40, but that's not going to happen on a nightly basis. So if Pelinka does his job and they continue to supplement LeBron's, teammates, then, he can really have a glorious end to his career. And I think he's got the understanding that he's got to step back a little bit if he wants to have this. As far as, I don't believe in LeBron rules. I don't think that's the case. I think that if you look at every major sport, the veteran players, the older guys, they know how to get calls. Okay, whether it's a flop, whether it's putting an elbow in somebody's chin and he retaliates, whatever it is. Veteran players know how to get calls. Okay, when I was a player at a very different level, if I was playing against a young guy, I have a smile on my face because I know I can get a call, I can make a play pretty much whenever I want because of my experience. So when players like LeBron, you used to hear it all the time about Michael Jordan, the Jordan rules. Come on. If you didn't foul Michael Jordan on every play, you had no chance of stopping him. So where are the Jordan rules? How exactly is he getting an advantage there? It makes no sense. So to me, and flopping and things like that, that's just part of this game. What makes it, you can hear the officials talk in their NBA meetings every year. I mean, players are better and better at fooling the officials. And it's very difficult for the officials one, it's a fast game. It's a physical game. It's an aggressive game. And now you have players that every year get better and better at trying to fool the officials.
Yeah.
So they're constantly trying to modify interpretations of rules and so forth, because players are just really good at finding ways to get calls. So that's up to the league and the officials to do a better job with that, but you can't blame it from a player standpoint. If hey, I'm not a big flopping kind of guy, but if you're going to be able to get those calls and it can win you a game, guys are going to do it. Simple as that. And if they feel if certain officials going to bite on that call, you're going to make the play for it. As much as we all, I love Jokic and the way he plays the game. He's a flopper, but that's international, right? That's international basketball. Those guys are really, really good at it. I mean, Vlade Divac was the original flopper coming into the NBA. Well, guess what? Jokic is from the same turf. So these guys are really good at doing it, and they get under your skin doing it. But guess what? They can do it to the point where it'll win a game.
Yeah, it's just tough to watch. It's just tough to see. I understand that, people trying to get a foul. It's just, especially, and LeBron's just look crazy. I think Shaq's looked crazy too, because Shaq's massive. Muggsy Bogues comes up and taps him on the knee, and he goes down like a ton of bricks. There's just moments that look bad on a replay. But to swing back to the Raptors here, we hear that there's the notion that some people say the Raptors are in this purgatory where they're not going to win a championship with the roster they have, but they could still make the playoffs with the roster that they have. So it's, do they go full rebuild? Do they add a few more pieces? Where are they at? How do they get out of this limbo of we're good enough to get to the postseason, but we're not good enough to win consistently in the postseason or to get far in the postseason? Do you believe in the notion of the Raptor purgatory, and where do you think this roster is at right now?
Well, was Miami in purgatory? I mean, where did they finish?
Right.
And who thought they could be where they are? Well, guess what? It's you put it together at the right time. You get in your groove. Maybe the other team, hey, they start out the series with Milwaukee. Giannis Antetokounmpo hurts his back, right?
Yeah.
So certain things can fall into place.
Yeah.
And that's what you never know. Look at the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, they were done, and all of a sudden they got a chance to, maybe get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
So there's not that much separation between a lot of these teams. So I wouldn't look at it as purgatory. I just say there's a pretty decent core with the Toronto Raptors. You need shooting. I think you need additional size. You need a bigger backcourt. But if you can add those things to the core that you have, and most of all stay healthy, you look at one of the things for the Miami Heat, they weren't healthy all season long, right? It took them forever until the latter part of the year before they could get their act together and make a run. And so the Raptors no different. If they could stay healthy and they could tweak this roster, they're close. I mean, there's not that much. I mean, you look at the regular season. They beat the Heat. They beat all these teams.
Yeah.
So there's not that much difference. The question is, how can you tweak your team? How can you get, like I said, bring in pieces to augment the ones you have? Maybe you make a trade. Maybe you move one of those pieces. Maybe you've plateaued somewhat with the pieces you have, and now you have to move one or two. Depending on what you get back. So to me, it's not purgatory. It's just the nature of the game. No different than Nick Nurse. I mean, sometimes at a certain point, maybe a different voice is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
We mentioned the development component, but sometimes just having a different voice in the locker room can make a big difference. I think when the Raptors had Dwayne Casey and they switched over to Nick Nurse, that was a great example of that. Dwayne Casey did a great job for the Raptors, but it just seemed to plateau. They needed something extra, and they brought in Nick Nurse, and you had a whole different kind of outlook with that team. So, like I said, I think that's one of the reasons that Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster haven't made any ridiculous moves or like I said, knee-jerk reactions, because they know they're not that far off from a lot of teams we're watching today. So what can you do to? I guess I don't believe in rebuilds. It's hard enough to get good players. It's hard enough to build the system. To blow it up, that's a fan's notion. That's you hear fans say it all the time. Okay, you blow it up. Come on, look at teams. Look at teams trying to battle for that number one pick this year. Like, what did for a lot of these teams? What did it get you? Nothing, right? So, San Antonio, once again is able to get a potential franchise, saving big. So. You never know what happens, and again, I'm not for the rebuild.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, there could be trading. You could utilize some of those transactional pieces. Is there anybody in free agency, Leo, that you look to that you think would be a good fit, a good piece? I mean, you've been around this game, you played this game, you've watched your son play. I mean, you've lived basketball for such a long time, and you've analyzed this Toronto Raptors franchise for many, many years. So when you look at it and you've seen it from the inside and you could speak on it better than most, is there a piece or two that's out there right now that you're enticed to, if you were sitting in that seat, make a phone call for?
There's a lot of guys who make a phone call for. That doesn't mean anything. Right? I mean, you hear fans say it all the time. Why don't you go get this guy? Well, it's that simple. You're just going to say you want him and he's coming? It doesn't work that way. And so there's a lot of guys that could help this organization. But who can you get? Who's available? Who wants to come here versus going there? There's so many factors that come into play. Which players, what coach are you going to have that may have influence on some of these players? What deals that you have, what potential deals do you have or are thinking of that may impact who you bring in, right? So it's way too early to figure that out at this point until they solidify a few different things. But like I said, to me, the Raptors made a great deal picking up Jakob Poeltl in season. Yeah. To me, it was one of the best. It was one of the best trades at the deadline that nobody talked about, because you got a guy that was very familiar with the system. Remember, they traded him when they brought in Kawhi Leonard, and they got back a guy that was seasoned by Popovich at the San Antonio Spurs. So he's a very good player. Really understands the game. Solid guy at both ends of the floor. So I would want another big. You got to have two bigs. You have to. You got to have even if it's for the 6 fouls. You got to have another big.
Yeah.
The Raptors seriously lack shooting. I'm not like you look at the Miami Heat, and you have shooters. All right, you got Strus, you got Robinson, you got, if he's healthy, you got Hero, you got shooters. And this whole league wants athletes.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody wants athletes, and they want to make them shooters. There's a difference between athletes and shooters. You need shooters. And you can take shooters and develop the rest of their game, but you need shooters. So I think the Raptors are desperate in that regard. Frontline, backcourt shooters. And the other thing is, if you do retain Fred VanVleet, he's a small point guard, and you need size. You need somebody, a backup point guard, somebody who can play the lead role, backup role with Fred while Fred's out of the game, that has size, that can run a team, and that can guard. The Raptors are real big on two-way players, right? If you can't guard, it's a problem. So. Again, it's really early now with so many variables up in the air about this team, but those are issues that I would want to address immediately. And if If they can address those issues, I mean, this team can be right in the thick of it.
Yeah, and that's, and like you said, I mean, early because you don't have the coach, just wanting to get your thoughts looking at, what's out there in free agency, some pieces. But I do agree with you, and you addressed, you addressed the two-way. They got to be able to play on both sides. You address the backcourt, you address shooting, and you address the big. And that's, I mean, obviously the Raptors clearly need help in those areas. Coaching wise, and we talk about what's set out there, and some people write stories just so you'll click on it, and some of them might have some weight. I see JJ Redick, I see Steve Nash, I see Monty Williams. You see different names. When I saw JJ Redick, that kind of threw me off because I didn't understand any of that. But seeing what we've seen with just candidates and thoughts and a lot of these boards, sometimes it's just a wish list that has no connection to it. I mean, I remember every year that Mike Hopkins was an assistant at Syracuse toward the tail end, he was going to 15 different places. Not because he was, but because people just wanted to talk about it. And I remember they said he was going to Boston College, and there was nothing to that. So your take on what we've heard, Raptor, coaching-wise, is there any viable name that you've heard out there that actually, that from what you've read and what you've seen and what you're like, okay, this could make sense? Or is this just too early and people are just throwing names out there to write stories?
Well, people are definitely throwing names out there to write stories. That's the normal, protocol for today's sports, right? But again, you don't hear anything from the Raptors. Mm-hmm. They don't talk about this stuff. So I can tell you all kinds of stuff, but that's just my opinion because they're not talking. They're not sharing. They never do. So, what they're looking for is, all I can tell you is whoever they get has got to fit in their long-term picture. Whoever they get has got to want to be part of development. Okay, it's got to be part of the program. And whoever they get has got to buy into the style that they want to play. They want two-way players that can be extremely aggressive and influence the game at both ends of the floor. So, there's a lot of candidates. And, I don't have an issue with like a JJ Redick. Well, he hasn't coached. Okay. Doc Rivers didn't coach. You can go through the list of the players, guys that went from the booth or from playing into coaching, and they've had a reasonable amount or a great amount of success. I think that if you do get somebody like a JJ Redick, what really matters is the staff. Who's around him, what veteran experience, what coaches are going to be around him. They're going to help him make this adjustment and transition into coaching. Steve Nash, I mean, not only would he be a splash as a Canadian, but Steve Nash, if you look at his record with the Nets, it was good. The problem is he was dealing with garbage every single day, and he didn't know who was going to be playing and who wasn't going to be playing. Yeah. So, when he had all his pieces, they were really good. And we didn't have all his pieces, they were still pretty good.
Yeah.
So, he really never had a fair shake at the coaching. And remember, a point guard is a coach. Steve Nash was a coach when he played. I mean, he ran Mike D'Antoni's system. He knows that system. He was a consultant at Golden State before he took the coaching job. And everybody loves the way Golden State plays the game. Today's the modern day game. So, there's a lot of names that are going to come up. But again, all those variables that we talked about have to come into play. So your guess is as good as mine, ultimately, who it's going to be, but they're not going to rush making the decision.
That coming from Leo Rautins here. Leo, final note. Here we get the lottery, 13th overall pick. I think the Raptors had a 1% chance of getting the number one pick in the lottery this year. And so 13th, in every mock draft that I've looked at has shown guard, has shown, some of the similar names. And I'd love to get your thoughts on, I know we've talked about what they need and where they can go and in free agency and different things that can open up when the season ends and whatnot, and what guys are happy here or want to move over there. But in this draft at the 13th overall pick, we a lot of people feel like we know number one is done. But beyond that, there's a lot of variables and things that can affect and change who gets drafted. With the Raptors getting a higher pick this year, what are your thoughts on them pulling number 13?
I mean, nothing you can do about it. This draft, from my, talking to scouts and everything, that the top of this draft is heavy. It's good. Beyond that, it's not necessarily a great draft.
Yeah.
So that's where your scouting really comes into play. You're really going to have to do your homework. You're really going to have to dig deep. Maybe that pick becomes part of a package, right? Maybe that pick becomes part of a package if you decide to move one of your core guys. Again, it's very early, and you don't, like I said, you don't have a coach. It's very early in the process. I wouldn't even begin to speculate on who that person would be, other than the fact of what their needs are that we talked about. At this stage, anything can happen with that pick.
Yeah, and I think whatever it is, the draft is Thursday, June 22nd, and you'd hope that your leadership is kind of in place and is more than prepared when it comes to making those decisions as we step forward. Carmelo Anthony, you went to Syracuse. Carmelo also went to Syracuse, won that national championship in 2003. The last time that, well, I can't say the last time, but one of the times that I went up to see the Raptors was when Carmelo, it feels like 100 years ago, because everything with COVID, I couldn't go up for a couple of years. But I did see Carmelo play Toronto, and I'll never forget that, seeing him come into the building. And obviously it was later on in his career. He didn't play a full game, came out in the third quarter and whatnot. But Carmelo Anthony, 19 seasons for everything he's done. I know he didn't win a championship, and I don't like when guys are simply regarded upon that. What he did for Syracuse will never be forgotten. His longevity in the NBA, I don't think should ever be forgotten. And in a lot of ways, he's been a feel-good story for a lot of different places. And with the Denver Nuggets, that's the last time besides this time that we really saw them, get into the playoffs and rise in recent history. What are your thoughts on fellow Syracuse Orange Carmelo Anthony and him hanging it up after 19 seasons, almost 2 decades in the NBA?
Well, it's kind of sad that, I think he still had a little gas in his tank. I thought,
Agreed.
like he played with Portland down the stretch.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job. I thought, we mentioned this with LeBron. I thought he realized that he can't be the Carmelo of old.
Yeah.
He's got to take a role. He's got to contribute where he can. And like LeBron, with the game the way it is today, Carmelo could slide in that power forward position and overpower players. And so I thought he did a good job down the stretch or the twilight of his career. And I was kind of surprised that nobody, let him kind of go out maybe on his terms.
Yeah.
But, he's had an incredible career. He's a great scorer in this league. He was an Olympian, one of the most decorated Olympians for the United States. What Carmelo did at Syracuse was just a historical season, one of the greatest not only seasons in Syracuse history, but the NCAA. Looking back on that year, it was just an amazing run. So, it's, I think, and he's done a lot of good. I mean, he's done a lot of good outside of basketball, even with his university, with the Carmelo Center. Is that what they call it? I'm not sure what they call it. But,
Carmelo Center, yeah. Carmelo.
The practice facility, the whole bit that, he's a guy that hasn't forgotten, where he came from. And his roots. I know he's always had a great relationship with Jimmy Boeheim and the other coaches and people at the university. So, I'm it's always sad to see a guy, step away.
Yeah.
Especially when, again, it's not exactly on his terms, but Carmelo just had one heck of a career. And you look at his time in New York. I remember when he came to New York, Andy was on that team. And the sad part about that was James Dolan really kind of screwed Carmelo's career in New York because he wanted Melo now.
Yeah.
He wanted Melo immediately. And Masai Ujiri was in Denver. He was making a deal on the other side. And all he did was wait. He sat there. And Dolan, and I remember talking to other people in the Knicks organization, they said, you know what? All we got to do is wait. Carmelo will come here in the offseason. As soon as the season's over, he's coming. And Dolan said, now. And they gave, and the Knicks were a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Like I said, Andy was on that team, and they were playing great basketball at the midseason point, and they gave away half that team to get Melo.
Yeah.
And had James Dolan stayed out of it, Carmelo Anthony would have come to New York with a great surrounding cast, and who knows what could have happened, instead of people blaming him for every time they lost after that. So, so many things happen around the player that lead to circumstances that, sometimes is laughable. But, if you want to criticize Carmelo Anthony for any part of his New York career, skip him and go right to James Dolan, because he's the guy that screwed it all up.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at it, you go back and see Wilson Chandler, Raymond Felton, Danilo Gallinari, then Mozgov as well. The Knicks 2014 first-round draft pick, the Warriors 2012 second-round pick, the Warriors 2013 second-round pick, $3 million in
It was a joke.
Yeah.
It was a joke.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to look back at all of this and say, I mean, they gave up the house for him. So,
and again, the New York Knicks management that I spoke to at the time said all we had to do was wait for the offseason.
Yeah.
Okay. And they were having a great year. So it wasn't like this team is in the dumps. Fans were excited. D'Antoni was there. They were getting up and down the floor. They're winning games. Stoudemire was playing great. Everything was good. Then all of a sudden you just get rid of this team, to make the deal. So it was just another asinine move on the part of James Dolan. But, again, unfortunately, Carmelo can't do anything about that, nor anybody else can. Even their own management couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I just remember that. I was like, well, he got to the Knicks, and he got what he allegedly wanted, but there's nothing around him now. So the whole, why couldn't he win in New York? Well, you gave up the team to bring in one player. So
Yep.
it was great to have him in New York, but also not great for the situation of, the locker room being raided in order to get him there. With that being said, Leo Rautins, TV analyst for TSN and NBA TV Canada, covering those Toronto Raptors very well, and of course, with an eye on the NBA in general. Leo, as always, I appreciate it. I thank you for being a part of the show, and as soon as we figure out some leadership coming up for Toronto, I definitely want to have you back on, and as the draft gets closer, but I appreciate your friendship, and you've always made time for me, and I'll never forget when I came a couple hours early, and you brought me into the arena, showed me around, and I got a really cool experience in Toronto. So you've always been somebody who's thought of other people and never, gotten an ego in the world that you live in. You've always been good to people. You've been good to me, and I think you need to shout out the people that do that. So thank you for that.
I appreciate you, Dan. I appreciate you. You're a hard worker. You're a grinder, and you got to appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll talk with you soon.
All right.
Take care. That coming here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break, and we apologize. We were trying to get Leo on video and had every intent of having him on video, and I in my studio could see him on video, but you could not. So, that's the breaks of, going live, and sometimes the things work, and sometimes they don't. So, you did get to see his face, and you got to hear his voice, and you got to hear his message, which
Recording
is the most
in
important
progress.
thing. So I'm happy that we had the opportunity to showcase him in that respect and to have him here on the broadcast. So always appreciate it, and can't thank him enough for it to have him here. So definitely want to thank
Recording
Leo Rautins
stopped.
and all the work that he's done and the amazing person that he is, because his hard work, his dedication, his determination, everything that he has done is always. I mean, he's when I talk Raptors, I go to Leo. So, and in general, I think he's a fantastic mind. He's a good person, and I'm about having good people here on the show, and it's always mattered to me the quality and the character of the individuals that we bring on to Wake Up Call. And we've had over 4,000 people on the show, and every one of them is on purpose here. So we are trying to get our video up here, and it's not allowing me to show people's faces, and I don't know why. So I every time we do this, you can see it, but what we're going to do is we're going to end the video on Facebook, and we're going to end the video as well on YouTube.